Thank you for listening to Games by Design. This is our podcast where we dive into the world of video games and look at especially the design elements. We talk about experiences that we've had with games and bring to each other an element of game design that we want to look at further and develop our own understanding of. But then we also suggest a game for each other to play and, just talk about it. We're not professional journalists. We're not reviewers. We're just three guys that like games and they're interested in those design elements. And thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Aaron Bone, and with me are my co-hosts and wonderful people, Zach and Nick Dunlap.
Hey.
How you guys doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. This is
good. Still good.
Still good, as we've talked about this beforehand. But yeah, this is our podcast. We're getting it. We're put together, and just hope that you listen and just come to hear our thoughts and feedback. Like we said, this is not a review channel. This is not a news channel. We just play what we want, when we want, and whatever we want to talk about. Sometimes it might be a new game, but right now, as we talked about before, I'm playing a lot of things from last generation or before. So if you feel like this is out of touch, there are plenty of things you can listen to stay in touch with the games. But if you just want to hear our thoughts and, learn with us a little bit about game design, come and join us.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's talk about some experiences we've had with games we've been playing this week. And this is a section where we just go through some games that we've been playing this week, and specifically, not just a extensive playlist, but specifically moments that we've had in games that have left an impact or, something that has stood out to us in a meaningful way. So Nick, what's an experience that you had this week?
Yeah, for sure. So this week I decided I was going to try out this Xbox Game Pass thing. A little late to the party. I'm pretty sure it started 3 years ago.
Nice.
But
That's all of us. So.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it until this month.
I mean, it wasn't on PC until more.
Is that why? Okay, that's why.
Yeah, you got some kind of an excuse. I think. I mean, I don't know. But yeah,
It's still been a little while, but
yeah, no, it has. So yeah, I was perusing my gaming Netflix basically. And I was just going through all the games and stuff. And one of the reasons that we decided that we wanted to try it in the first place was because we thought Sea of Thieves might be kind of fun to play with our brother. And so Zach, our other brother, and I were playing Sea of Thieves, and which is this open world pirate adventure game. So we had this great idea where we were gonna we saw another player pirate ship, and it's a pretty competitive game generally. You tend to attack other people and stuff, but we got this great idea. We're like, hey, we got this box of fruit. What we're gonna do is we're gonna sneak onto their ship, and we're gonna, because they were on the island, they're like exploring or whatever, and their ship was docked. So we docked right next.
These
to
are other players. It was a player ship.
Yeah,
that's the way the game usually works there.
Yeah. So these other players are on the island, and so we sneak onto their ship, and then we get out our instruments, because you can play sea shanties together in that game. We start playing Happy Birthday, and we got this big box of fruit. And so when they got back on their ship, here we are, and we set this box of fruit down in front of them, and then we played Happy Birthday on our instruments, and then we all dove into the water and swam away. It was a very wholesome pirate surprise.
Yeah, they started dancing to our music and everything, and it was great.
Oh, that's fun.
It was a good time.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
Man, I should have shared that one from my experience. That was a good one. That was a good one.
We proceeded to play the 18. We proceeded to play the 1812 overture on our pirate ship with cannons.
Oh yeah.
It feels like it was built for that, because you've got like the bells on your ship and you've got the cannons too. You got all the extra instruments you need, and so it was pretty good.
Yeah, and so we're playing on the hurdy-gurdy that it gives you, and the concertina, and we're playing the 1812 overture, and then Noah, the other brother, is just like, I don't really know when the cannons are supposed to come in, but I'm just going to start firing them off now, I guess.
Wow, that's
It
crazy.
works pretty well. That's fun.
It was great.
Since I also have recently discovered Game Pass and recently discovered the world of PC gaming in general, and just all these games you can do on a computer. I played a little bit of Sea of Thieves, but I only played like the single player tutorial. Here's your stuff, and there's a ship, and go sail and do something. And I was thinking, it's like, okay, like some of the sailing and stuff's like, but like, man, there's not a whole lot going on. I don't really see any other people, and there was a little tutorial that was like, here's how you use your cannon. Oh, there's a ship firing at you. Go shoot it. It's like, okay, so I got the cannonball, and then I put it in the cannon, and I'm gonna go shoot the ship, and then this squid comes out of nowhere and destroys the other ship before I could even shoot it. And I was like, oh, great.
That's
tutorial.
how my tutorial played out too.
It's like,
that's exactly the way mine did.
It's like, here's how you shoot your cannon. Just kidding. You're not actually gonna do that. But no, that's cool hearing about what you can actually do with a game. I'm excited to play with some of the multiplayer elements, because up to that point I was like, I mean, it's kind of fun to sail around, but there's not much to do. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
That was kind of my experience as well.
Yeah. Felt like sometimes kind of had to make our own fun with that one, but
yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't mind me segueing into on that note, Nick, if you don't mind me segueing Aaron into my game experience just real quick. It's a short one. We were playing that game, and I noticed that several times it was like, well, there's nothing really interesting happening, so I was like intentionally make tactically bad decisions or put ourselves into unnecessary danger so that it would be a more interesting game, And I thought that was an interesting little observation I made about myself as I was like, this is interesting. I'm like, apparently the game isn't fun enough without me throwing a wrench in my own plans, or or in my own taking action against my own self-interest, So I thought that was odd. It's an interesting experience, worthy of discussion another time, perhaps.
Yeah, that is an interesting interesting discussion we could have. It's like when a game gives you a direction, or something I want you to do, and when you kind of have to create that yourself, and the value there. I think it's interesting that you felt like in order to have an interesting experience, you had to like sabotage yourself or do do different things. But that's I can kind of get into that when I'm playing like a role-playing game, and I'm like, this character I'm playing, they haven't really learned their lesson yet, so they're gonna make this bad decision first, and then maybe they'll do better next time. Like there was I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and there was this quest, and basically the quest just ended up being, like a side quest, help this person. It's like, I'm down on my luck and I need money. And in the conversation that, my character is like, so you want me to give you some money? And then there was the option of give him money or not give him money. And it's like, nah, she's a mercenary. She doesn't care about giving other people money. Like, I'm not going to give you money. And so it was like, no, I'm not going to give you money. And then it was like, quest failed. And it was like, could have got experience points, could have got some stuff. Like, nah, she wasn't just going to give away her money. Every decision she's made in the game is to get money. So, but no, that's, I think we could probably have a more in-depth discussion about that. But I mean, that sounds like a unique experience, though, with both of you guys. What you're talking about is kind of creating your own world and your own enjoyment in this sandbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as I said before, I recently joined the world of PC game, and I think it was the last podcast we did where it said, I should get a PC, and one day I'll understand that. Well, like the very next week I got a laptop and I got which, quick note, it's been a bit of time. I think listening last podcast we did was around Halloween. Now this one's around Thanksgiving, so
With a holiday podcast. Yeah.
took
Yeah,
some
that's what it
time, Yeah, we're gonna do our podcast around some holiday every time. No, that's where we're working at. But anyway, I've been really having a fun time exploring some different games and discovering the strengths and great limitations of my current rig. But one game. Speaking of Game Pass, this other game that is on Game Pass. That really I think was a unique experience, and I haven't finished it yet. But it's a game called Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Talking to you guys about this game a little bit, and I don't want to go too much into it because a lot of what was effective to me was not really knowing what was going to happen. But just in general, it's this game that kind of deals a little bit that the character that you play basically has kind of some form of psychosis with like a lot of voices in her head and kind of different directions. Like somebody you could be playing the game and then going forward and you have a voice be like, no, don't go that way, turn around, you'll fail, and things like that. And starting playing the game, it's like, should I turn around? Like I'm used to voices telling me, what to do, but quickly learning that
you are
those voices.
Or you mean in games?
Yeah, in games, of course. I'm not crazy. But no, it was interesting starting the game and realizing you kind of have this innate barrier there where everything you do in the game, you're going to have people kind of working against you as you're playing the game. But
That's interesting.
And I kind of knew about that going into the game, and that kind of intrigued me. And I was like, I wonder what the game is like. But something that I was just not expecting with the game was how visceral it is. Like, not even just the voices in your head, but when there's some kind of violence or when there's some kind of trauma, it just really digs into you. And one example I wanted to mention real quick was, so kind of in this tutorial section where you're kind of learning what the controls are and what the type of game is, there's this point where you're climbing up this cliff and you have to cross this rickety rope across this giant drop. And I was like, okay, I cross it, and I imagine doing something. But what happened was that as I'm crossing it, the camera just starts looking straight down, and so I'm going across each. Like, I just start feeling vertigo. It's like, oh wow, and then the game does this thing. So up to the point, basically, I've moved the character, with the joystick, just direction, pretty simple controls. Well, on this point, there's actually this balancing mechanism that I didn't know about. And so as I'm crossing this bridge and there's this voices like saying, oh no, you're going to fall. Like, you can't make it. You can't do it. And then all of a sudden the character starts tipping. It's like, oh no, what's going on? and then I fall to my death. And it's like really, like you said, just like visceral. And I just feel it's like, oh no, like they just fell to their death. And it's like, oh, I was supposed to like keep them balanced. And I thought it was part of the tutorial to kind of introduce the death thing, but no. But the way that I did that, I just lost my balance. I didn't realize I was supposed to keep the balance. But the way that it just zoomed in and it was just looking down, and the way that I was able to invoke that feeling of vertigo, and the way that it was able to kind of show that trauma, and you really feel the consequences of some of these actions. It just really floored me.
That's really cool.
And as far as I know, I don't think it's a very long game. I've only played a little, just like first little portion, maybe even first half. I don't know. But there are so many moments of that game that are honestly kind of traumatic. I have to be in kind of a mood to pick it up. It's like, oh yes, let's do this fun gaming romp and pick up Hellblade, and it's not quite there, but going kind of previewing what our topic will be, but listening to a video about Celeste, and it was mentioning like power of like negative emotions in games, or like things that aren't fun, that are kind of hard. And I was thinking that was with this game. It's like, man, this isn't necessarily fun. Like, this is kind of terrifying and really sad, and kind of making me feel uneasy. But it had such an impact, and it really, worked for the thing that the game was trying to do. So, that was, that was a couple of weeks ago, but that I'm still thinking about that moment. So
that's really cool.
Man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, and so those are our experiences. And now, so typically, if you're new to the show, and that's absolutely everybody because we haven't published it yet, but what we do, the conceit of this show is that each week we're a couple of guys, we like game design, but we don't know much about it. And so each week, each of us will take a topic to the other two about some element of game design that we're interested in, that we've started learning a bit about, and that we want to discuss, and that we could hopefully learn together and become more aware of these elements of game design, and maybe be able to design our own game someday. But then once a month, what we do is we dive in depth into one game that we've all been playing, and discuss the various design elements and our experiences with that game, just that one game. And so this month, the game that we played and that we're going to discuss is Celeste, the 2018. Yes, 2018. Like I said, no new games here. 2018 indie hit. Really, this game won and was nominated for many awards, and up against juggernauts like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, like Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War. These massive AAA games that came out, and Celeste, just this little indie platform game, and it got all this attention and all this praise. And so just starting out the discussion, why don't you guys tell me a little bit about your experience with the game, and just kind of your own personal take.
Yeah, all right.
Sure.
So I was the latest of this bunch to approach the game. I just played it maybe a month ago for the first time. I'd heard a lot about it and stuff, so I decided to finally give it a go because it was sitting around in my library because I had it. Let me take a look at my notes real quick. Sorry, I want to make sure that I'm not just saying nothing about this. If one of you guys has something you want to say,
can't say nothing. You have to contribute to this conversation.
Yeah, I know. I want to make sure I'm saying something meaningful. Let me take a look at my Celeste notes real quick.
There you go. Zach, do you have anything with your experience with the game?
Yeah, sure. So I'd played a bit of Celeste last year, but I hadn't beaten it, and so I reinstalled it and tried it again, and I didn't make it through it again either. In fact, I didn't get as far as I did last time. I only made it to the hotel, and then I couldn't keep going. This game for me is deeply emotionally taxing, and I found myself getting I know it's a game about depression and anxiety and everything, but it was giving me real life anxiety. And so I was like, you know what? I don't think I can finish this. It's just stressing me out. It's not a kind of game that I typically go in for, and I think that's kind of the main thing. I just don't play a lot of platformers in the first place, and it wasn't really something I was super invested in the first place, and then it was also just making me stressed out. So, yeah. I mean, that said, I have a lot of notes here about stuff that I still appreciated, and some stuff that a little more specific. But that's my broad strokes response to the thing.
Sure. Yeah. That's fair. I think with so many different kinds of games out there, even in the design elements or quality elements is also still just games that work for us and games that don't, or games that we enjoy playing or not. And I think that is a thing about Celeste, is that it it does, and I think by design, it does kind of cause a bit of anxiety and a bit of
Yeah.
on edge. Kind of another one of those games. It's like, oh, this isn't just like an easy, lighthearted, can just kind of pick up and play. I mean, I'll get into my own experience in a little bit, but it was like I kind of had this intent. So it's like, no, I gotta climb this mountain. I gotta finish. Like I can't put it down. I have to, keep doing it. But yeah, I think that's kind of what the game wants to do as well. I think it wants to be a kind of a harrowing experience for the player in some way.
Yeah, I definitely got that was at least a little bit intentional. I mean, that's what the game's kind of about, that, so it makes sense that it kind of try to represent that
Yeah, and we
struggle a little bit through the mechanics and everything.
Yeah, we can dive a little bit into the development of it and kind of some of that design. But Nick, did you find your notes? Make sure
I did. I just had
telling any lies or.
I love the part with the giant enemy crab. Very historically accurate.
Massive damage.
I played it a little bit before. We had actually initially decided that we were going to do this. And I played through it for the first time, and I had a good time with it. It was challenging. I beat it in a couple of days. I didn't have a whole lot else I was playing at the time. It also, platformers aren't like the games that get me most excited, but I was like, hey, I'll try this out. So I did. It was freaking hard, as anyone can tell you. But I had a lot of fun. I found the moment-to-moment gameplay so engaging and compelling that I kind of found it hard to put down, just because it was so satisfying and so easy to try again. And so I had a good time with it. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the platforming. I thought it was really clever. It's all about navigating this mountain, and I thought the story was cute. In the end, the general impression I had was this is a nice feel-good kind of story. I'm not sure I understand, and I can get into this more later, exactly what the story was trying to say.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not sure what principles I was able to derive from it, but at the end I was like, yeah, no, that was nice. That felt good. It's a good game. And the music is just so fun and so engaging and so compelling that when I was having a really hard time with some of the levels, I just pretended I'm just here for the music. The platforming is something I'll do in the background while I listen to the music. And that kind of helped me get through some of the more challenging segments.
I love the music.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the games where the music's really integral to the game. That is, the way it kind of connects with the gameplay and, how it... for example, early on in the game, you kind of come across this negative alter ego of yourself. The girl who's has this negative alter ego, and then the music,
as folks call her.
Yeah, and so Madeline finds this version of herself, and she's this huge part of the plot. But when you first meet, the music basically takes the opening theme and turns it minor and kind of adds some elements to it and speeds it up and kind of takes it in this erratic direction.
Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, and it just really encapsulates that that confusion and that anxiety and that that darkness that Madeline has to confront in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then she starts chasing you, and
it's just
it's like, oh, you thought you were just platforming on your own time and your own leisure. No. You have to...
Now it's a chase sequence and everything sucks.
But yeah, the music. I think the music is definitely a highlight of this game. And researching some of the development, it kind of started with these two guys who were working on this game, and they basically just wanted to make this challenging platformer. On this little kind of game design software, and then they just made this little game. And then they said when they wanted to develop it more, the first thought they had was the music that they wanted to do it. And I believe the composer Lena Rain. Yeah.
Lena Rain. Yeah, I don't know how you say her name.
Lena. Anyway, but they'd kind of heard some of her music and was like, yeah, like that's what we want. Like basically, she was the third person to join in on making the game, which I think is cool. Really, or at least that they thought of. I don't know the time, but yeah, so it was interesting. It's like that music, that kind of sound that they wanted was early on in the game. Something that they.
Yeah, it's clearly important to them to have that as a central part of it. Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
That's cool. So real quick, my experience with the game. So
yeah.
I kind of like you guys. I hadn't played too many platformers, and the ones I had played weren't my favorite. And when I saw things of Celeste, like when I just saw a video, about the game or a trailer, I was just like, I don't know if that's a game that I'd enjoy. I was still pretty early in my gaming experience, so if it didn't have really cool graphics or looked like an action RPG, I wasn't that interested. But so in Celeste, it's the pixel graphic and 2D side-scrolling platforming. But then I noticed, looking back on it, and kind of the accolades that it was getting, and the reviews, and what people were saying about it, and that it was up against these juggernaut AAA action RPGs. I was just like, I should try that game out, and that I heard that it dealt a lot with anxiety and depression. I was like, it'd be interesting to see how the game does that. Anyway, and so I got it. I first played it on the Nintendo Switch, and just playing it handheld. And like you, Nick, I had a hard time putting it down. I had a hard time stopping playing because I got really engaged in the platforming. I mean, I died a lot. I died. Even I picked it up again, a couple days ago, and was replaying through the first couple levels, and I still died like 80 times. But I don't know, in kind of a in a way that like a game like Dark Souls, how it kind of uses the idea of death as kind of a way to incentivize you to do better, or just like I don't know. Like I see Dark Souls is kind of like a tough love, kind of a game, and Celeste is more kind of like the encouraging mother who's wants you to succeed, wants you to do good, but it's like, oh, it's okay if you fail, and it's okay if you fall down. You can pick yourself up, and these are learning experiences. Like early on in the game, it's like, be proud of your death count. It's
it's got like those little messages it throws up, kind of like
it's like, yeah, there's strawberries, but you don't have, if it stresses you out, don't worry about it. You don't have to do those.
I actually take issue with that. Sorry, because the game makes fun of you if you don't get enough strawberries at the end, and I was like, excuse me, you told me I didn't have to worry about the strawberries.
I didn't get that far. How does that make fun of you?
Well, you like make a pie at the end of the game,
and if it's like a super dinky pie because you didn't
like, wow, you didn't put any strawberries in this. It was like, what, game? You told me don't worry about the strawberries, so you eat that pie.
What?
I actually do agree with you there, because there are a lot of things. Going back and kind of trying to do some of the secrets, there are a lot of cool things in this game that are kind of locked behind these finding collectibles, or these discovering like new areas. And in order to do them after you beat the game, you have to basically replay these levels again. And it's like, oh, well, when I first started out, I wasn't focusing on these because you said it wasn't that important. but in general, I do appreciate kind of the attitude that the game has. That even though it was a challenging platform, even though I did die a lot, like I don't know, kind of like. And this is, I think, one of the most fascinating things about this game, in a way that I think that I connect to it, is that the way that your experience as a gamer is so directly connected to the experience and the story that the character goes through. You have this story of this young woman, Madeline, trying to climb this mountain, and really just to prove something to herself, just to prove that she can do it, just to stick something through, to finish something. And so then I'd have this experience when I'm playing it, and it's like, yeah, I've got to climb this mountain. I've got to finish this game. Like, this is like I can't quit because she's not quitting. It's kind of this connection where. On the flip side of that, once I finally did climb the mountain, and like it took me a few days and just not putting it down, just dying and dying, and then slowly getting it. And those moments when you do get past a particularly challenging platforming area that seemed impossible, it really does feel good, and I think that the game does that well, and making you feel accomplished. But after after I got to the top of the mountain, even though there were a bunch of additional content and things, I didn't really feel motivated to do it because kind of that connection I had with the game was complete. That it's like, climbed the mountain. I don't really need to climb the mountain again. I don't.
Yeah. I don't need to find all the strawberries or do the B sides or the C sides.
And I wanted to because I heard I heard that there's this kind of this expansion that kind of takes the story in a different direction, and I heard that there's these other sides. It's like you find these cassette tapes, and it's like a B side or a C side, and then you find these hearts, and you can get like to the core. And looking at videos, it's like that looks like some fun gameplay, but my connection to the journey that the character was going on, and therefore the motivation for me to complete that journey myself, it wasn't there anymore. And so I found it harder to keep at it. In fact, when I was playing the other day and actually accessed one of the B-sides, which is really cool. It had like completely different music and started introducing some new mechanics. It's like, and I'd beaten the game. It's like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But then it got to this challenging point, and after about 20, 30 fails, I just kind of rage quit.
Yeah, that was me in the second level. You beat the game, you went back and did the bonus content and decided it was too hard. I did the second level and decided it was too hard.
I mean,
I quit, and I was so angry. I hate this game.
and that's definitely there. And I think by the second level, I don't think you're quite as connected or invested in the character. I think there's some particular story beats that really drew me into the journey a little bit. But yeah, without that, like, even though the platforming is fun and it is challenging, kind of the motivation to do it and the drive to finish and to move past all the fails and the deaths, it wasn't quite there anymore, and so it was easier to put down. It was easier to not worry so much about it.
Yeah, that was kind of my experience with it too. I'm kind of glad you brought that up, Aaron, because like when I played the game, I thought the story was fine, like I said, but it was a story, and I was interested in fulfilling, seeing a story through. Like there is something compelling to me about a narrative with structure. And so once I'm done with that, I finished the game. It's like, oh great, I know there's oodles more content, and like I didn't do any of it because I was like, no, I finished the story. Like I didn't come here to see how much of a boss I can be at platforming or to try these really hard challenges. Or I came because there's a game, and I kind of felt like that was the experience, and I'd had my experience and I was done with it. And so like I went back and played it a second time. Well, I played a bunch of it a second time in preparation for this. I made it through the first 4 levels or whatever. And I was like, ooh, this platforming is really fun. And it was kind of fun to go back and kind of see how I'd grown and gotten better, and going through those early levels again. It was a lot easier now. But I was like, yeah, but I don't really care anymore. Like I've already finished this. I've done all this before. I was just like, looking for strawberries, trying to challenge myself. But that motivation only went so far. And like having a narrative, even a narrative that I'm only marginally interested in, made a difference to me.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could do just a pure platformer. I think that story is important to me. I think that's something I'm learning about myself, as I'm not interested in exclusively gameplay.
Yeah, well, when I think, I mean, I agree with that personally, but I think maybe just even in a general sense of games, I think that that's something I don't know, because a question I had was, so the story helped me get through this game, but then did it also kind of become a barrier to the gameplay at some point? Like I was thinking of a game like. Granted, I haven't finished this game, but a game like Dead Cells, where you just kind of pick up and go, and there's some platforming, there's some action, and you do a lot of the same thing over and over again, and there isn't really this overarching story. It's just kind of about getting from one place to the next and going. But I find like when there's like extra stuff there, like I want to play it. Like I wonder. Because the game originally, when they were making Celeste, they were just making a challenging platformer. They didn't have the idea of linking it to anxiety or this extensive narrative they wanted to do with it. And I almost wonder if it was just your standard. Here's a platforming level. Here's another platforming level. Here's another thing. If that was like what you were used to, if maybe it wouldn't feel so off to then try to do additional things, with that. Does that make any sense? It's like that, though the core narrative really kind of drove the platforming and made us want to complete the game. At the same time, once you remove that, it made us not really want to continue finishing it if it wasn't there in the first place, if just the platforming gameplay elements of it, I don't know, would have seemed more consistent, and therefore like you'd want to go back and do some of the bonus stuff more.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I don't know all of what that would look like.
Yeah. I don't know either, although that's a really interesting question, and I'm scratching my head over it. I do know that the developers originally didn't have the narrative in mind.
Yeah.
I was watching a video about that, and it came a little bit later on in the process, and it kind of evolved organically, and piece by piece they kind of figured out what they wanted to do as they were developing the game. So there's that. I don't know if that really has any bearing on the question, but
no, well that's kind of the idea, that originally it was just this challenging kind of arcade-like platformer, to challenge speedrunners,
Right, it feels like it's built for speedrunners, yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's not me.
And and there really are some like interesting mechanics and things that they did with the game that really, made things accessible for the average player, but then also like added some additional tools for speedrunning. I was thinking, like old, old like Sega games like Sonic the Hedgehog. There's not really a story, There's just different, platforming levels to go through, and but people, still play the game and try to go from one level to the next, and then unlock the bonus content, and get all the emeralds, and do the things.
I find,
like maybe it's just
that's true.
With the level of difficulty and with that kind of arcade speedrunning style, since those don't usually have such a in-depth narrative or such a connected narrative, that kind of makes it become something else, and then it's hard to just go back to just the arcade. And maybe this is just something on our own thing, because I've heard plenty of people who love the game who have 100%ed it, or who have
definitely
gone back and done these things. So maybe this is just us just we just like
We're
story,
noobs.
you know.
Yeah.
We're noobs. We haven't.
We're dirty casuals.
Excuse me, I beat Dark Souls.
Okay, yeah, that's
Although I got help for Ornstein and Smo, I'm not gonna lie.
Snorlax and Pikachu.
See, I abandoned them at this point and am now fighting the dog with the sword. So.
Oh, he's a tough guy. But sorry, if I can jump back to Celeste real quick.
It's always back to Dark Souls.
Everything does. I fully admit that I went to Celeste looking for a complete experience that I intended to be done with in a matter of days. I was like, all right, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to play this game, I'm going to get through the story, and then I'm going to be done with it. And that's what I was expecting. I knew that there was more content, and I know that there are even more story beats with the additional content.
No, I didn't know that.
But my mindset, I mean, yeah, just like stuff beyond epilogue stuff. I don't know all the details, but I know like characters come back and whatnot. But for me, I definitely went into it with well, this is what I'm going to play this game and I'm going to be done with it, and then I'm going to move on and do other things. Kind of a perspective, and so I recognize that totally might have bearing.
Yeah.
I did too. I mean, mainly I was doing it with the expectation that, well, we're going to talk about this game in a week or two.
I mean, Zach, do you mind if we story?
No,
if
please.
you didn't
I
finish it,
have no desire to finish the game.
Okay. There's that moment when you realizes, she can't keep running away, from this, like I said, this negative alter ego of herself and all her fears and anxiety that's just chasing her through these levels. She reaches a point where she's at the top of the mountain, and then if I remember, she pushes you all the way back down, or you fall down.
Like all the way back
comes
down.
to reconcile with that part of her where the two of them fuse together. And it was like, we need to work together in order to climb this mountain. And then the gameplay they add on top of that is that you then get an additional dash, so that it really is, as a character and then also as a player, you are stronger because you have come together with this negative entity. And I thought that was really powerful. And that was a moment where it was like the way that, again, the story and the gameplay were connected. And also what it says about ideas of depression and anxiety. That's not something that you can just bury away and forget about or just run away from. Like, eventually you have to accept that about yourself and kind of use it to become a stronger person. And the fact that, I don't know, I think that's kind of a nuanced idea, and to see that in this colorful platformer, in the way they did that, I thought, for me, it was very effective.
That makes sense. I don't know that I am totally thrilled about, how do I say this? So to me, the game, I agree with you. I felt a lot of good feelings around all of that. I really enjoyed that sequence. And honestly, like, I felt hyped when I was climbing the mountain during that final ascent. Like, when you've got the superpowers, and the music is so rousing, and it's just this really, like, wonderful, I've been empowered kind of a thing. And I thought that was really cool. It seems to me like the whole game is her, dealing with, here, how do I say this? Let me think for a sec. The mountain, to her, seems to be like this kind of unhealthy obsession at the beginning of the game. And so for me as a player, it felt a little weird that the goal of the game is still to beat the mountain, even after Madeline seems to come to the conclusion that she doesn't have to reach the mountain, like she's already found closure. But me playing the game, I still have to muscle through this mountain, even though it's not really the point of the game anymore. And if I want to see the ending, I've still got to do that. There was some dissonance there for me. I also just don't know that I feel like muscling through mental challenges is healthy. And that you just have to try harder is
must work
good.
harder.
You must work. You're depressed. Try harder. Climb a mountain. Like, I don't know that that I am really comfortable with that idea. I don't know if that's what it's trying to say. But to beat the game, you have to really push yourself. And the story is like, oh, you're anxious, just try harder. I don't know. Those are some loose thoughts. I don't know exactly how they
No,
all
I totally get you.
It kind of leaves a weird taste in my mouth.
Because that is totally unhealthy. If it's like, oh, I have depression, so I'm going to just force my way to do things and expect more of myself. But if I could just offer maybe my interpretation about the game, maybe it's not right. And I think that it definitely does, could still have some shortcomings. But I think all that stuff that you're talking about Madeline kind of having this unhealthy obsession and forcing her way through, I think that that's the first half of the game. I think that when it's that initial climb and when it's, she just needs to get to the top of the mountain, I think it is that obsession. It is that forcing way through. I think when you have that part where then she has to fall down the mountain and learn to reconcile herself, I think that becomes a turning point where she realized that just her sheer willpower, her grit, her determination, her obsession wasn't enough and wasn't placed in the right spot. And I think that in that moment where she and you as a player fall down and fail, and then, little by little, like that part's kind of, it's less at least at the beginning, it's less intense than, what you just face. And it's just kind of like this slow kind of pick yourself back up and keep moving. I think maybe what the game is trying to say is in that moment when you reconcile yourself with your fears, with your anxiety, with that negative part of yourself that you just want to forget. I think kind of what it's saying there is not that Madeline then was still obsessed with this mountain and felt like she had to do that to prove herself. I think it then became, how do I put
more
this?
Of a, like she's been empowered by she's
been empowered, and this is something, kind of to celebrate that, or to it's still like something that she wants to accomplish, but now she's doing it for the right reasons, I guess. That now, instead of running away from her problems, instead of saying like, I'm not this bad negative person to prove it, I'm going to climb this mountain, I'm going to, I think in some point she has this conversation with Theo and she says like, oh yeah, she just likes to forget things and just drink away her problems. It's like,
it surprised me because I thought she was a kid.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I guess she's,
I thought she was a kid. Yeah, whatever. Sorry.
And I'm not sure we're doing time. I really want to talk about the characterization in this game a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure, let's do that. I think we're coming up on near the end here. So.
Okay. So yeah, just real quick. I think that at least to me, the game pointed that back in a more healthy direction, whereas like they have to reconcile together. She's now seeing the mountain is still kind of this idea of her anxiety, but instead of forcing through it, she's understanding it more. And she's realizing, the limitations it has, but then also the strength that it gives her. And I think that instead of just proving it to herself to just muscle her way through, it's that culmination of accepting who she is and realizing the power that gives her.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I think that makes sense. I don't know that it still was the way it felt for me, and that may have been for any number of reasons. I really can't point to anything, but that makes sense, and I can see that, and I think it's a really valid interpretation. I actually like that interpretation a lot.
Yeah, I mean, but your experience is your experience, and we focus a lot on that, and what we talk about with our personal experiences with games, and we don't know anything. We're just talking about our personal experiences, and I think that that's a valid thing to bring up in game design because, if something doesn't work for us, even if it's our own thing, like it's still a valid thing. Yeah,
it's still valid. Yeah, but we don't have to dwell on that. I've got other things to say, but we don't.
No, yeah. Let's. I really want to touch on the characterizations game because I think it's really unique. Just I don't know. What are your thoughts with the way that kind of the pixel animation and the sound effects and the than the additional, animation for like the speech bubbles or whatever. What were you guys' take on that?
Like the aesthetic, just kind of in general.
Yeah, just kind of.
I liked it.
Yeah. What'd you like
I thought
about
it was
it?
cute. Yeah, it's super cute. It's super charming. I love the cute little synthy chatter thing that they do while they're while they're talking or whatever. Yeah, that was adorable. And then I also love I love that the portraits that come along with the text thing,
Yes. Yeah.
like they move around. And then like the one I think there was a moment early on in the game where you're talking to Darkside Madeline. I don't know if she has a name, but
I've heard people call her Battling.
Yeah, Battling.
I like that. Battling, but she's not bad. She's part of the solution.
Yeah.
But
those people don't get it.
Yeah, they're wrong.
Those are the speed
There's only one way to interpret this. But she pops out of the frame, which kind of shocked me the first time. I was like, she's popping out of the picture. She's not supposed to do that. Stay in the picture. But I thought that was really cool. It had character. It kind of got me. It was like a little bit of a fourth wall shattering kind of a moment. I enjoyed it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And I think the pixel art's great too. All the stuff that's happening on the screen itself. That's great.
I love the simplicity behind it all. I love the this idea again with so many super high budget AAA games. It's like put a lot into facial animation and voice acting. And that can be really cool. But to just have a little pixel sprite and just a little kind of cartoon portrait and just a little sound effect voice. And it carries so much character behind it. Like,
it also invites you to use your imagination, which I love.
Yeah,
I love that too. When games,
because your imagination, like, just you fill these characters up with what you think of them. You can't see their face or you can't see all of their body language, but you can imagine it. And I think that's really cool. I think it's actually a really cool tool.
Yeah, what was it? That's. I want to reference that thing that we reference sometimes. Some Bethesda game, ironically.
I think it was one of the Fallout ones.
Was it? It was. I don't remember if it was
when you're
New
playing
Vegas
a role-playing game. Oh, I don't.
Yeah, yeah, I can't remember. It's in the manual or it's in some. Gosh, I gotta find the darn thing. But talking about the developers talking about when. In a role-playing game like the Fallout games, half of the story is happening in the player's mind. And Sid Meier, the designer of such strategy behemoths as the Civilization series and that kind of thing, and Pirates. Yeah. Anyway, enough about that game. He talks about a similar thing in one of his GDC addresses where he says if you can just suggest to the players that this thing is happening, you can save yourself so much money and time on game development because they'll just imagine it happening and they'll be totally satisfied with it. And I was totally satisfied with the way that it happened in Celeste. I thought that the little pixel art and everything, it was more than adequate to just get me to believe that they were real people.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like the moments when Madeline gets mad and it just kind of the little facial animation, then like instead of the little and like
there's a pitch drop and the little Animal Crossing sound effect kind of a thing going on. Yeah,
it's really just that simple, seemingly. Not as impressive as these other games, but totally effective and really works well for what they were going for, I think.
Yeah, it may not be photorealistic, but it's evocative, So it works.
Yeah. Okay, well that's Celeste.
Yeah, it was fun. There's so much more to talk about it too. Like there's Nick just came out of the other room. He's pointing in his ear like he's not in the call anymore.
Okay, thanks.
So Nick dead for all intents and purposes.
He bailed to see where his priorities are at.
And there's so much. I was just saying, there's so much more that could be talked about with this game. Like the technical, incredible stuff, and even more stuff about like frustrations that I had with it and things that were less than perfect. But so maybe another time. But I enjoyed this conversation. This was fun.
We could in the future have a Celeste Revisited or part 2.
Do I have to play it again? That's what
No, you can watch a playthrough.
Oh, okay.
You could. I actually did. I watched a few Let's Plays in preparation because I wanted to try it again, but I was like, I don't know if I want to play the entire thing again.
Yeah.
But it's.
I did. Oh, so sorry. I know that we're about out of time, but I think the assist mode in Celeste is awesome.
Yes, we didn't even touch on that. That's
it's so good. It's so good. Also, I turned it on and played through so many levels and then decided, oh, this is too easy and now I don't care anymore. So there's that. You got to be really careful about just turning on all of the settings at once because you want to speed through the game because it ruins the game. But it's still awesome. It makes it more. It's great. Anyway, like I said, it's so much more we can talk about. I'll stop talking now because we got to wrap up. But
no, it's great. I really think it is a fascinating game to look at in game design and in game development. The way that they made the game and the way that it kind of came together and they play tested it. And so on YouTube, there's a like a 2-hour video of the developers playing like their beta versions of Celeste and the different levels and talking about kind of the design and what they went into. Really fascinating the way they just like streamed it on Twitch.
That's really neat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anyway, yeah. So we might have to bring it up. I mean, in our general discussions, we might talk about Celeste again.
Yeah, probably.
But next week we'll be back to our regular rotation where we'll have some kind of topic about games. And I say regular rotation. This is really our first time doing it, but. What we would like to have a regular rotation where we talk about a specific element of game design and just have a free form discussion about it and really try to learn more about that specific thing. Or now we're gonna wrap things up with a section that might be called "Think of a Good Game."
Yeah, it is.
Which is an obscure video game reference that only we understand, but it's a funny name.
It's not even from a video game. It's from us. Never mind. It's just from us screwing around while we were playing a video game.
Our experience with video games, which
this
podcast is about.
It's appropriate.
But this is the part where we recommend a game for each other and for you, whoever may be listening in the future, to play. So Zach, what is a game you recommend?
All right. Gosh, I go with Nick first. If Nick has something.
Yeah, all his notes this time. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got something. If you're cool with that, Aaron. Game Pass again. Game on there right now. At least when we're recording this, I don't know if it'll still be on there when the podcast goes up. But I have been enjoying. Let me make sure I got the name right. I think it's called Lonely Mountains Downhill. It is a mountain biking game. It's just this third-person, really simple polygonal, like low poly art style game about riding mountain bikes down hills, and I just love it. It's a very serene and also challenging experience. So I think it's a load of fun, and I've been enjoying it. So that's my recommendation.
Awesome. What was that game called again?
Lonely Mountain Downhill. I think it might be Lonely Mountains Downhill. It's got those 3 words in it. It might down Lonely Mountain Hill. Hill down, mountain, lonely.
Search some combination of those words on Xbox Game
Pass. Like a cute mountain biking game. I don't know.
I've got one now.
Okay.
Yeah. I was reminded actually during this conversation of Gone Home, which
Oh, yeah.
which I adore. It's delightful. I thought it was a horror game for the first like little while, but it's not. It's great. It's just kind of spooky. Anyway, it's this mystery thing where you're this girl who comes home from college and nobody's home at your house, and you have to like go around the house and find out where everybody is, and why they're not home to welcome you home. And it's so good. It's creepy. It's fun. It's really, really intelligent, and I just love it. I recommend it. It's heartwarming too, and it's got a really great story that you unfold by finding random notes or doodads around the house, and you just kind of put the clues together and get pieces of the puzzle. And it's awesome. Highly recommend it. Pretty short too. You can play it within a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
Gone Home.
I agree. Yeah, it's Gone Home. That's really unique storytelling in that game. That's it's a good one. Mine also from Game Pass. I'm going to recommend No Man's Sky.
Really?
Yeah, this
Awesome.
it's a game. Apparently, when it came out, it was pretty rough. Didn't have much.
Yeah, I remember we had it.
I bought it. I bought it like day one or something like that. I don't know if it was that early, but I bought it new, $60. Dropped it. Yeah, it was pretty rough. Yeah, regretted that decision.
But the developers have really added a lot, and all of it's been free, just free updates to the game. That they've been expanding the world, they've been adding content, they've been adding mechanics, they've been expanding the multiplayer. I've just I've played a little bit of it, and just my experience with it. It's a really fun, open exploration game that you can just kind of do what you want with, and the diversity of the different planets and the creatures and the biomes, and the fact that one hand I was blasting up into space looking for something, the other one I was like diving into the ocean, doing things. It's really, really impressive. Really, really beautiful too. Just the art style and the graphics of the game. But yeah, No Man's Sky. If you played it when it first came out, I'd recommend checking it out again. Also on Game Pass.
Yeah, if I could say something real quick about No Man's Sky.
Absolutely.
I think that is one of the most wholesome and beautiful game development stories, actually. For as goofy as it is, there's this video on YouTube that I watched. It's called The Engoodening of No Man's Sky, something like that. It's the Internet Historian. But it just goes through the process of the game they wanted to make, and then like what it became ultimately. And the developers, like, it's quite inspiring, the amount of effort they put into that after release, and to ultimately turn it into the game that they wanted it to be. And I think No Man's Sky is actually really kind of a beautiful success story in the end, even though it did have a bit of a rough launch.
It really is. Well, and even for the Game Awards 2020, it's nominated for a Best Ongoing Game.
That's awesome.
I think I voted for it, actually.
Oh yeah, I think I did too.
Yeah. Same. It's because it's like you think it would be a game. How these usually go. Just real quick, I don't know if it was from some other studio, we won't name any names, but it's like if they released a crappy version of the game, and then if they wanted to make it better, they'd be like, oh, well, this is paid DLC, or oh, this is a separate expansion you have to buy, or this is this season pass, or this is some kind of microtransaction. And the fact that these developers are just like, no, this is like we said it was going to be this game. It wasn't quite that way. We're going to work hard to make it our vision at no cost to you guys. Like that really is pretty amazing.
That's so cool.
It's so awesome. Cool. It's so cool. Yeah. And they put up with some crazy abuse. So like good on
No, I know they had death threats and stuff like that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That's from the studio that brought you Joe Danger. The most ambitious project ever. Yeah.
No, it really is. It's a good game now. It's a good game now. Check it out.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. Yeah.
I'll have to do that too.
Great. Well, that is our podcast this week. It's always great talking about games with you guys.
I know. I always like it.
I said we could talk about these things for hours. I think a lot of it is so much we can do. But thank you if you are hearing this, if you're listening to this, if you are not one of us three. and are getting this podcast. Thank you. You're amazing. And
Thanks, Mom.
thanks, all people who we talked about on Facebook to listen to this podcast. Thank you for listening. But no, this is something we've really enjoyed doing. This is something we're passionate about. We love to be able to create things and to be able to take something that we love and that we're passionate about, and just turn it into this meaningful experience in this community that hopefully we can continue to grow and share for. So, thank you for being there with us and for being patient as we construct this thing from nothing. Figure this out. But it's really been great. Okay, so next week we'll be back in our normal rotation. I think we'll also try to figure out a game to play that month. Probably, it sounds like not another platformer. So
something on Game Pass.
Something on Game Pass. That's a good idea.
Yeah, Game Pass, something we'll have access to. But yeah, thanks again for everyone listening, and we'll see you next time.
Next time.
Bye.